There's a yellow school bus in Toronto. It leaves at 10 in the morning. 50 people climb aboard. They're not going to a museum. They're not going to a park. They're going somewhere stranger. They're going to dead malls, shopping centers that stopped breathing years ago, but never quite died. Places that exist in the space between memory and forgetting. The spaces between. Tonight, we're following them inside. You know the feeling. You've had it before. Walking through a space that looks familiar but feels wrong. Like a dream you've already forgotten. Like time slipped. The Japanese have a word for it, mono no aware. The pathos of things. The sadness that comes from watching something beautiful fade. But this is different. This is American. This is a shopping mall that's been dying for 15 years. And something about that slow death speaks to us. The word is liminal. It comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold, a doorway. The space you pass through between one state and another, neither here nor there. Anthropologists used to study liminal spaces in ritual. That moment when an initiate is no longer a child, but not yet an adult. Suspended, in between. But now we use the word differently. We use it for hallways, for empty parking lots at 3 a.m., for places that feel like glitches in the fabric of the everyday. And dead malls? Dead malls are the cathedral of liminal space, built for crowds, designed for noise, now holding only silence and the hum of failing lights. In Toronto, a designer named Aryeh Bookbinder decided these spaces deserved witnesses. He founded something called Liminal Assembly, an organization dedicated to experiencing the uncanny. Every few weeks, that yellow school bus picks up around 50 people. They drive for 4 hours. 4 different malls. Each one more hollow than the last. They call it a field trip. Like archaeology. Like they're excavating something that the rest of us would rather forget. The ruins of late capitalism. One food court at a time. It's not just Toronto. This fascination is spread everywhere. Online, it became a phenomenon. People started sharing images of empty spaces that triggered something primal. By November 2022, the liminal space subreddit had over 500,000 members. On TikTok, the hashtag passed 2 billion views. 2 billion. People couldn't stop looking. And the question became, why? What is it about these places that hooks us? Why does an empty swimming pool at midnight feel like a memory you never actually had? Psychologists point to something called the uncanny, a concept Freud explored, something familiar that feels subtly wrong. Your childhood home, but the furniture is different. A smile with too many teeth. A space that is liminal, one researcher wrote, is a place where everything within that space is suspended in an in-between status. Not alive, not quite dead, waiting. These malls weren't abandoned overnight. They weren't destroyed by fire or flood. They died the way stars die, slowly, cooling. One store closing after another until the light just went out. First, the anchor stores leave, Sears, J.C. Penney, the giants that drew the crowds. Then the smaller shops follow. Then the food court shrinks to one Chinese place and a Sparrow that's always empty. And then, even that closes. And the mall becomes a shell, a fossil of commerce. The skeleton of a place where teenagers used to hang out on Friday nights. Lana Hall, writing about dead malls, described them as places that seemed stuck in purgatory between eras, at once eerie and beseeching, like they're asking for something, like they remember. And maybe that's why a generation that grew up in these spaces feels something when they see them dying. For millennials, malls weren't just stores. They were social infrastructure. That's where you met your friends. That's where you had your first job folding t-shirts at Gap. That's where you kissed someone in the parking garage when you were 16. The mall was the town square for people who lived in suburbs without town squares. And watching it die feels personal. Like watching a piece of your own past decay. As of February 2026, Liminal Assembly expanded their dead mall tours to Brampton. They call it an uncanny and nostalgic journey through tragically beautiful forgotten malls. The walking tours are free. You can donate if you want, but something about paying to see decay feels wrong. So they just invite you. Come look at what we've lost. There's something sacred about it. These tours treat dead malls the way we used to treat ruins, like Pompeii, like places where time stopped and left everything frozen. But Pompeii was destroyed in an instant. Malls died over decades. And that slow suffocation, that's what makes them different. You can trace the dying, year by year. In March 2025, Cumberland Terrace in Toronto hosted a special liminal space exploration event, a dying mall that let people in to witness its final months. Archaeological tourism of capitalism. Some people call this morbid tourism, poverty porn with better aesthetics. But the people who go, they're not gawking. They're grieving. They're saying goodbye to something they didn't know they'd miss. And there's an honesty to it. Because we built these places. We filled them. We abandoned them. And now we're finally looking at what we left behind. The aesthetic started growing on mine around 2019. By 2020, it was everywhere. Something about the pandemic made liminal spaces resonate even more. The whole world had become a threshold. When everything familiar becomes strange, you start to notice the strangeness that was always there. The mall that's always been dying. The hallway that's always been too long. The light that's always flickered. There's a theory that liminal spaces trigger a warning system in our brains. Evolutionary. Ancient. A signal that says, this place should have people. Where are the people? And when there are no people, something feels wrong. The space is a body without a heartbeat. The architecture was designed for crowds. Without them, it's just a skeleton. But the skeleton can teach us something. These spaces are documents. They record what we valued, what we built, what we thought would last forever, and what didn't. Writer after writer describes the same feeling in these places. The sense that you've stepped outside of time, that the normal rules of reality have been paused. And maybe that's the real appeal. In a world that moves too fast, a dead mall moves not at all. It's frozen. You can wander through it like a time traveler examining an era that's already ended. That era, the one where we thought growth could be infinite, where every suburb needed a mall, where commerce was community, where buying things made us belong. Those ideas died. The malls are just the evidence. And yet people keep visiting them, keep photographing them, keep treating them as sacred spaces. There's something they're looking for in the emptiness, something we all might be looking for. If you're near Toronto, you might want to consider taking one of these tours yourself. Liminal Assembly offers them free, donations welcome. See what the spaces between feel like, or just pay attention. Your own town probably has a dying mall. Most places do. Drive past it some evening. Notice how the parking lot lights cast shadows on nothing. And if this kind of thing speaks to you, the eerie, the liminal, the places that time forgot, you might want to subscribe. We explore spaces like this every week. Consider hitting like if this resonated. Document your local dying mall before it's gone. They're disappearing faster than you'd think. Demolished and replaced with distribution centers, with storage units, with more forgetting. If you can't visit in person, there's a community for this. The Liminal Space subreddit still has 500,000 people sharing images, comparing notes on the uncanny, finding each other in the in-between. Consider what spaces from your own childhood have become liminal. What closed when you weren't looking? What became a threshold when you thought it was solid ground? The answer might surprise you, because that's what liminality really is. It's not just about architecture. It's about us. It's about the threshold moments in our own lives. The spaces between who we were and who we're becoming. The dead mall is a mirror. Look into it long enough and you'll see yourself. A person standing in a place that used to mean something, wondering what comes next. Maybe that's why we visit. Maybe that's why we take pictures. We're not documenting dead malls. We're documenting transitions. Capturing the exact moment when something stops being one thing and hasn't yet become another. And in that moment, suspended between, we feel something. Recognition. Connection. The strange comfort of knowing that nothing, absolutely nothing, lasts forever. Some call them tragically beautiful. Some call them eerie. Some call them the ruins of a dream we all once shared. Places stuck in purgatory between eras, at once eerie and beseeching. Whatever you call them, they're waiting. In every suburb, in every city that built too much too fast, standing there with their lights flickering, their escalators frozen, their fountains dry, waiting for someone to notice, waiting for someone to visit, waiting in the space between memory and forgetting. Next time you pass a parking lot that's too empty, a building that's too quiet, a place that feels like it's holding its breath, stop for a moment. Look at it. Really look. You're standing on a threshold, between what was and what will be, in the space between, and maybe that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Good night. There's a phrase the tour guides use. They say you're about to enter a different kind of purgatory. Not heaven, not hell. Just in between. Forever in between. Forever in between. The bus ride back is always quiet. 50 people who just walked through ghosts. Processing what they saw, what they felt, what they remembered about themselves. Because that's the thing about liminal spaces. They're not just about the place. They're about you. About that part of you that's always been in between. Always becoming. Never quite arrived. 2 billion views. 500,000 subscribers. A generation looking at empty hallways and seeing themselves. The in-between has become its own destination. They come for the malls. They stay for the feeling. That moment when time stops and the familiar becomes strange, when you're neither here nor there, when you're finally, completely present in the threshold, in the doorway, in the space that exists only for passing through. That's where they find it. That's where we all might find it. The meaning of places we built to hold none, the significance of shopping centers designed to distract us from significance, the depth in the shallow. Maybe that's the real archaeology here. Not the stores, not the food courts, but the way we're learning to see what was always there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be noticed. The dead mall was never really about commerce. It was about gathering, about finding each other in spaces designed for something else, about making meaning where meaning wasn't planned. And now we're gathering again, not to shop, to look, to feel, to stand in the ruins of one kind of gathering and create another kind entirely.